How common is it for people to feel they have no free will, that they're completely determined by physics? To find out, in a survey on this channel, I asked people. With close to 200 responses, it's running almost neck and neck. Only 54% of us say we're conscious and have free will. The actual wording is, I'm conscious of thinking and of arriving at decisions telling my body what to do. 3 other options correspond to various ways of feeling determined, of not being able to consciously arrive at and carry out one's own decisions. Please check out the survey. I include a link in the description. Add your vote. According to my survey, those of us experiencing we have free will are in the majority, but it's a close call. To me, that's incredible. Won't a universe where free will can exist be vividly different from one where everything's determined? How can we differ over something so fundamental, almost without being aware of it? So which universe do we live in officially? Will you be surprised to learn it's the universe without free will? Google says, dominant view, physicalism, materialism. Core idea, everything, including mind, is fundamentally physical and can, in principle, be explained by physics. Who says? That 46% of us who think they're determined, somehow they got together enough initiative to get their worldview made official. Where does their worldview come from? According to Google, it is heavily supported by cognitive science and neuroscience, viewing the brain as a complex biological computer. It's all science. No consciousness, no free will, only what's physical. But just because science says everything's physical and determined, do I have to accept it? No, I don't. I know that isn't true because I know I've got free will. I consciously experience it. In this video, I'm going to ask, on behalf of those of us who do experience having free will, what must the world really be like? Obviously, I've got to look for ideas someplace other than science. I turn to ideas arrived at independently of modern science thousands of years ago by the ancient Greeks and Romans. They were smart. They worked on this problem for much longer than modern science has existed. So let's see what they can tell us about a world where consciousness and free will can exist. The earliest ancient thinkers began by asking, what's the one thing everything else came out of? One suggested water, another suggested air, but all they could account for was matter. None of them could account for mind any more than today's materialist science can. To account for mind being different from matter, maybe we have to start with 2 basic stuffs. Here's an ancient Greek example. Change itself is just another element that, blending in with matter, makes change happen. That's more promising. Matter is just stuff for change to act on. But change itself is not necessarily mind. Here's how another ancient brought in mind by drawing on his own conscious experiences. All change in the world is the work of love and strife. Love makes for order, bringing material things together. Strife makes for chaos, making physical things separate. Change comes from love and strife being locked in everlasting conflict. Now imagine smart people like the Greeks and Romans putting ideas like this into a blender and churning them together for several centuries. what would they end up with? They ended up with Stoicism. For the Stoics, matter consisted of 4 elements blended together: earth, air, fire, and water. But to these they added a 5th element. They realized they needed to account for not just change, but whatever it was that made the natural world, the world of life, different from matter. You can get a sense of that by comparing the moon or Mars to the Earth. Life makes the Earth very different from what's purely physical. Their 5th element they made capable of intelligent order or reason and creativity, what we think of as mental properties. In effect, they divided nature into 2 distinct realities, matter and mind. Mind had to exist to account for what was special about life, and mind and matter must be able to interact for life to be possible. So, what is mind? From what we know, experiencing it from the inside, it comes as consciousness and free will. Among the properties it comes with that you can detect from the outside are the reason and creativity we see in nature. None of these can exist in purely physical matter. Purely physical matter is determined by physics. It can't be creative. And reason isn't physical. It can exist only in a mind thinking about what's physical. I find this account of the universe quite persuasive. If you experience consciousness as a reality independent of physics, then what the Stoics believed is just as logical as the official physicalist account, everything being purely physical. Yet our official view of the world today is it's purely physical. But notice this. We all act as if we have minds, as if we can arrive at our own decisions. Our language has all that built in. So where's the problem? One problem is the physicalist account actively promotes itself. The movies In and Out 1 and 2 were hugely popular. They portray us not as having a central self with reason and free will, but as an assembly of separate emotions, such as joy and anger, that compete to tell us what to do. It pictures us as driven by the physical parts of the brain responsible for these emotions. No central self, able to use reason to arrive at its decisions, no free will. Just a movie or two? Is that all? No. This hollowing out of the mind is fundamentally due to how science describes us as having evolved and evolution as being a purely physical process. Our genes getting damaged, the damage then being picked over by natural selection. Purely physical. What follows from that logically is anything created by a purely physical process will also be purely physical. Danger is, this can lead to accepting determinism for oneself, to fatalism, to life becoming meaningless. So what's wrong with us, the majority of us who do experience consciousness and having free will? Why are we so intimidated by science that we can't stick up for ourselves and the separate reality of mind? Because we can. What we call evolution, the Stoics identified as mind. To understand either conscious mind or evolution, we need to consider both together as a set of non-physical processes. We could embrace Stoic logic to create a new origin story in which we give mind a starring role. Care to sketch out this origin story? It would force you into making some decisions. Which came first, mind or matter? Which made the first move? What is mind? In this channel, I maintain a playlist, Evo-Dualism, Evolution's Role in Mind, where I take these ideas further. I'll leave a link to this playlist in the description.